Micro brews, dude.
Dude. Craft Brews and Casual Conversations. Join with us today, actor of the new show that can be watched right now on Amazon Prime, Chaser. We welcome Russ Russo. Russ, yeah, appreciate you hopping on and looking forward to watching the show. So you have this new show, 8 episodes, Amazon Prime. It's called Chaser. Can you break that down a little bit for us?
His life for a period of 24 hours. And, with great power comes great responsibility and, the kind of things that you can get into if you start messing with, timelines in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I wish I could do that sometimes, but I'm sure with along with that power, yeah, you create like that butterfly effect a little bit.
You do, yeah, you do. Because I've thought about that a lot, within my own life. Because everybody feels like, they might have regrets or, something that they'd like to do over. But I feel like even those things that kind of feel like that to you in life, they wouldn't lead you to where you are now. And I think right before the show, we were talking about, the fact that you and I have kids. I don't know necessarily if maybe I would, but it would be with a different partner. Maybe it wouldn't be the right thing. I think all things led to, the good and the bad to this moment in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about that too, like how things would have gone differently had I made different choices. There's a lot of time in life where you have a plan, doesn't work out, and you just gotta roll with the punches. And I don't know. Do you think that you think the timeline's laid out for us already, or are we making in our own moves here?
That's actually a good question, man. Free will. I'm kind of a believer that we're. I would love to believe that we are our own creators, because if I had not made certain decisions, I wouldn't be in this position. And funny enough, and I was talking about this with my wife earlier. It's like, even if I had 23, 24 years old out the gate, studio film, or had that sort of career, I don't know if I would have been as appreciative
Right.
of it as I am now in my life. And just a lot of those things that it had to come in time for me, versus other people, maybe they deal with it differently. So yeah, for me, I think free will is important. I think that that the failures, just as much as the successes, the failures, if not more than successes,
Yeah,
work out better.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with having kids, so I had my first kid when I was in high school. I was a senior in high school when my daughter was born. So obviously my life changes had to come pretty quickly. Some decisions had to be made. I'm glad I'm in the situation I am now. But even in like instilling that idea with like your kids of choices matter. And it's important to think about things, and you can't, you make the choice, you can't change it. You can grow from it, you can learn, but you can't change it. And it's it's pretty wild. So as an actor, when you're shooting this stuff, what's that like with the family? What's that like with kids?
It's been different now. In fact, I've had a couple short film experiences with my daughters now.
Awesome.
So that's always fun. And I know when Chaser came out, when it hit Prime like a few months ago, they were watching the first episode with my wife for a couple of minutes, and I popped into the room, and it was like, there's Daddy, and then the second follow-up question was, is Daddy okay? And then she had to turn it off. So there was no understanding at 2 and 3 years old,
right?
That I'm okay even if I'm up on the screen and I'm walking through the room. That I'm okay if I'm up on the screen and if I'm pretending to do something that seems different.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of wondrous.
Absolutely. Did you grow up in an acting family, or how did you get into acting?
No, not at all. No. Um, you know, um, like anybody else, late teens, early
Mhm.
20s. Uh, College didn't. Some of the things that I was studying just didn't seem to be like catching on, and I was, as you do, sort of as a brooding early 20-year-old, walking around in the rain, that's that sort of thing, thinking about your decisions, that sort of thing. Everything seems so important at that age,
Right.
and it is in a sense. But I saw a place called Jewel Box Theater, um, that was asking for acting internships to be in plays for them. So in turn, the woman studied with Stella Adler directly, and then she would teach acting from her time at the conservatory with Stella Adler, and teach you group theater and acting technique from that standpoint, in order to trade for time to be in Great American Plays. So
Hmm.
it seemed like, a win-win for me to, like, take on Tennessee Williams and Clifford
Yeah.
Odets, and, like Biff and, Death of a Salesman, and that sort of thing. It, only 20 years old, but it felt like, wow, this is something really exciting, even though
Mhm.
I was getting paid
Yeah.
nothing to do, but I was learning, and that was important.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually had to read Death of a Salesman for one of my lit classes back in college. I've never seen it in production, but the script is awesome and the playwrights are awesome. And I'm really, like, over the years I've gotten more of an appreciation for even, Broadway musicals and these American plays, because it's a whole different world from my understanding than acting, in a movie or a television series. Have you done theater then a couple times?
Yeah, yeah, that's how I began, and then, went to conservatory, and thereafter, so I did those couple of years on stage, then went to conservatory. I did a few more years off Broadway in New York City, and just that's where it sort of began. But I realized that a lot of the playwrights, a lot of the directors, when I was doing plays, were like, speak
Oh
up,
yeah.
you know. And it started to bother me, man. I know maybe it's not the same because of technology nowadays,
Right.
as it was in 1999. But it just felt like I don't want to speak up. I want to do what the character's doing in the moment,
Hmm.
and maybe they're not projecting to the back of the audience. So that's when this curiosity about, well, how can I do it in a way that's more natural? How can I do it in a way that feels more real to me? And that's where film and television came in, because it felt like, oh, the camera's right there.
Right.
It's right there. The littlest thing that you're thinking is gonna project to to someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when it kind of changed a little bit for me.
Awesome. Did you have to change your approach when you moved to film or television at all?
You know how it is. It's like, you're going to find a lot of failure.
Hmm.
Even if you felt like your choices were more natural, uh, uh, toward film on stage, there's still going to be a point where you're just like, wait a second, now that I've viewed these couple of films, three, four, five, six films, then you start to get like, wow, I need to adjust this, or I need to, what was I doing here, and so you start kind of like, you start adjusting things,
Hmm.
adjusting techniques, even in sort of ways in uh, to film and TV acting versus stage acting, and I started teaching it the last few years.
Awesome.
Started, yeah, film and television acting. I'm teaching now. I've got students ranging from 9 to 79, and I specifically teach film and television now.
That's awesome.
So
That's killer.
that's those are the techniques, those are the processes that I put forth. I think the theater is a really important art form, but I still feel like, even with some of the technology out there, they still have a way of gearing toward that sort of unnatural, like, I'm in a really I'm in a really vulnerable scene, but I'm gonna project it out to the back of the theater,
Hmm.
like, not, that's not how in
Right.
life we would be vulnerable. So,
Yeah.
so there's parts of states that I just can't, can't,
Yeah, I can understand that. So as a teacher, and you're teaching people how to act for TV, for film. Do you how do you teach somebody to turn it on? How do you teach somebody to go from this is me, Drew, now to I am this person from this place in this situation?
Yeah, building a character. Stanislavski was a big proponent of building a character and creating a role. Um, and I think that kind of study and understanding sort of the basics of the Stanislavski method. I mean, because Adler, who my teacher studied under, was a complete student of Stanislavski. So I think passing those techniques down generation to generation is really, really helpful and important. And I think with film acting, a lot of what I'm finding is that people come into the class and they have an idea of what acting is,
Mm-hmm.
and they think acting is like the old John Lovitz acting. They think it's that, and like so from the very first class, that's what I get on camera, like
Mm-hmm.
immediately, and it's like, whoa, okay, we have to just take it step by step process, like psychology, thinking about internalizing, even right down to like what your eyes would be doing in the scene,
Right.
rather than darting all over the place. Because I get a lot of that as well, and it's great to watch people over several months go from like being in a scene like this, in a box like this, and just being like,
Right.
to like finally, they're just listening to the person and they're watching. And they're listening and they're watching, and it's just incredible to just see them kind of to make those sort of changes
Mm-hmm.
in their work. It becomes very profound to see that.
Yeah, and it's a huge balancing act because you have to be aware of what you're doing, what the camera's seeing you do, on top of also like being, buying into your character, buying into the role, and buying into what's happening around you, and making it, obviously film, television, you want to make it believable. You want this to be, for the viewer, somewhat of a real life experience, and like as if it's really happening. So that's got to be a huge challenge.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things I find with brand new actors is they also think that acting is putting on like a completely different person, a completely different role, when really what you're trying to do is find parts of yourself inside that person. So you're trying to find who you are. Like if you have a person that's like maybe has one or two things that, oh, I would never do that, or I would never be jealous like that. Well, just there's 9 other things that are just like you.
Mm-hmm.
So acting natural in those moments, and then finding those other couple of things that maybe are a little unlike you, is a lot easier than being like, I'm going to create this whole character, and I'm going to wear this kind of jacket, and I'm going to put on these kind of
Yeah.
Very, very different, very, very different. And just doing that. I even had an actor who he would talk like this to you, right? As we're talking back and forth, and then immediately when I started to yell action, he would go, and I'm telling you, like what and I'm like, whoa, what's the voice? Like you can have this conversation in this voice right here.
Right.
You don't have to immediately, as soon as action comes on, all of a sudden my voice, here, and I'm gonna act like, and it's like, whoa. So just that, just like getting comfortable with like, this is your voice. You're unique. You're a unique human being.
Mm-hmm.
Let that be your voice. Let that be your voice, and know how to use that as an instrument first, before like always kind of trying to put on some like, Clint Eastwood or some,
Yeah, like a Christian Bale Batman or something like that.
Yeah, or like a Batman. But yeah, absolutely. So
do you ever find people come in and they're like method right away, right off the get go? Do they try to do that approach?
I did have one kid that, tried an approach where he was yelling at his dad, so he came in all, disheveled and messed up, and he was like punching at walls and I'm like, man, yeah.
Yeah. Have you, as a professional, have you ever gone method for a role?
Yeah, I have as a young actor. I thought that, but I did it in a sense because I didn't understand um, accent work at the time.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't know that I could build an accent and not have to like fully immerse myself and stay in the character in order to, lose the accent, build
Sure.
the accent. So what I started to realize over time is that I can build a vocalization, or a tonality, or I can build an accent and then kind of keep it close to me,
Hmm.
not not be in the thing the whole time. So and that's what I mean by, like, having these sort of successes and failures with acting, where you're trying to find process, where you're trying to find a method. Um, but yeah, there's definitely definitely there's just a lot of, I think there's just a lot of misinformation out there. So
Yeah.
I did have a kid that did that, and I toned him way down and had him start really listening to his dad, and really start, and not preempting the, like, I'm gonna slap the desk and jump up,
Yeah.
and just really listen, and that was important, because everybody wants to do like the big screaming thing, but
Mhm.
but it actually becomes indicating, because they know it's coming up, so they're like, okay, I'm getting ready to slap the desk and get up, and they're like, ah,
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
kind of indicate, and you know it's not something that is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do want to ask about a note that I got on here that you have a kind of an upcoming horror comedy coming up,
Yeah,
Night of Violence. So when I see
yeah,
the word horror and comedy together, I melt because I love old school horror movies. I love the slasher
yeah.
flicks. Me and my daughter who's 15, we are we're always like on the weekends we wait for everyone to go to sleep, and then she's like, all right, we gotta watch we're gonna watch a horror movie tonight, and that's kind of our thing. So we're watching all these slasher movies, but I love horror movies, but I love horror movies that are also funny. So can you talk a
Yeah.
lot about this new flick that's
I
coming up?
I can't talk too much about it, but I did see a premiere of it, and I know it's in the sales,
Okay.
portion of it now. So I know that it'll be out in a few months, and that they're selling it now. So I'm not sure which streamer, or
Sure.
where it's going to be, which company is buying it. But when I saw the premiere, I got to tell you, man, there were a lot of people very, very uh, very much like rolling in the aisles kind of thing. The
Oh yeah.
horror held up. It was really, really funny, and really, poignant, because it was about big pharma, and to have a slasher set amongst a 35-story big pharma building was I thought was, it had sort of social messaging, without beating it over your head,
Right.
along with the horror and the comedy. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I'm excited to see
cool.
that. And that's another thing, part of like being an actor, even, once you get the filming done, once everything, you read the script, you go and you audition, you get the part, you do the job.
Yeah,
You mentioned, like somebody's got to pick it up. Somebody's got
that's
to
right.
distribute it.
That's right.
Does that add like a kind of a level of stress to it, or is it, you've done your end, you've done your job, and then, it's kind of up to the universe now?
Yeah, it just depends if you're involved in it, which, a lot of times these days I'm involved in the producing aspect of it as
Okay.
well. So then it becomes my job at the end of these things to ensure that we get the right streamer, we get the right distribution company, that, or sometimes even at the beginning of it, which is the way that I'm going about it now. Like,
Okay.
I'm setting up the distributor and the studio, like, right away,
Hmm.
and then the financing is coming through them, and then we're going. But in years past, it would be, quite the opposite, especially with independent productions, where, you're just hoping somebody picks you up, and you hope you made something that was, worthy enough to be kind of out there in the ether. But yeah, we're doing it a little differently these days. Night of Violence was one of those. It's just the genre, what it is just so funny, and has such great horror moments, and you knew it was the marketplace was ripe for it,
Hmm.
that you could make it and wait for the marketplace versus set it up in the marketplace ahead of time. But yeah, I think we're going the opposite way now. I think we're setting it up ahead of time, and then shooting it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Is it so in that business aspect, is it kind of nice to have all these different streaming platforms available, or I hear things from both sides that there's too many streamers out there. There's too much content, which I would argue there's not enough content. You gotta try to find something for everybody. But maybe on a business side of things, well, it's like now this is a world of opportunity. Would you agree with that or?
Yeah. Except for what has happened out of it is that now the big studios are making less. Now Netflix is very much insular.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of streamers that are out there, taking on independent productions.
Sure.
So that's what's, kind of differentiated it. Even though you have all of these options, it feels like options to the audience. Because filmmakers, not so much. The studios are still the studios. They're making less. Netflix is insular. They're making their own. So unless you're set up with a deal there, your options are more limited.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, a lot of the material, and these are great films, and I love Chaser as a TV series as well. But I'm finding like Prime and Tubi are two streamers that are taking stuff,
right?
Whereas Hulu will be insular. Netflix will be insular, and Showtime, and a lot of these streamers they have their own. They're setting up the way that I'm talking about, which is set it up ahead of time with us,
right? And
we're good to go. But try to sell to us after the fact, even if it's great, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's I don't know if the audience really knows that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, very, very difficult to sell after the fact. Everybody has that dream. I understand it. I've been in it 25 years. But it's, it is hard to after the fact sell it to these big streamers, and people think because there's more options that they can, and that's a fallacy. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. That's good information to have, and yeah, it's good to have more perspective about it when you go and watch a film. Maybe you can appreciate it a little bit more because it is a lot of work, and it's not easy to do. Before I let you go, I see that you're wearing a Boston shirt. Game 1, Boston Celtics versus the Mavs. Are you cheering for the Celtics?
Of course. I was born in Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Even though I have a studio in Monmouth County, New Jersey, and Red Bank, New Jersey nowadays. Because I grew up here.
Mm-hmm.
I was still born in Gloucester. I still have a lot of family up there. My grandfather brought me to Fenway Park, to the old parquet floors in Boston Garden as a very young child. So I still have those memories. They just don't. Even when you move to another area, you're just like, oh my god, my first experiences were the Boston Garden or Fenway Park. So so that's why there's still love for it, even though all my neighbors have Yankee.
yeah, for sure. I growing up in Wisconsin, the Milwaukee Bucks, we kind of have a hatred for the Boston Celtics, but you now have Drew Holiday, which broke my heart when he got traded, but so in that aspect, if Boston wins, I'm happy for Drew Holiday. But I'm sorry to say I'm rooting for the Mavs. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But
it's all jurisdiction though, isn't it funny? It's funny. But I do feel like it's mostly tied to your childhood memories though.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you can't get away from that. That's for sure.
Some of my best memories watching football is Tom Brady on the New England Patriots, and I know he was polarizing, but I loved watching that guy. I loved watching those games. Even as a diehard Packer fan, I was like, no, this is fun football to watch. So
because you never knew that's what made it fun for me. I mean, even though I was a Patriots fan, what made it fun for me is that those last 5 minutes of any game,
right?
Even 14 points down, you never know what's going to happen when that guy was playing. And I didn't feel that about any other quarterback. Right. I always felt like 14 points down, last 5 minutes of the game. All right, let's turn this off. Drew Bledsoe isn't going to do this. You go on to something else, but not with Tom.
Yeah. Boston, a magical place. A lot of good music out of there as well. So Dropkick Murphys wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Boston. So it's a place I got to get to on the bucket list, that's for sure. But Red Bank, New Jersey is also on my bucket list because my favorite podcast is called Tell 'em Steve Dave, and they record I think at Airport Plaza, and it's kind of by New Red Bank in Monmouth County.
Oh wow,
It's
yeah,
like Kevin Smith's
yeah.
friends and stuff. He's got the secret stash
Oh,
in
that's
Red
so
Bank. So
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. He's right down the street from my studio,
wild. Okay, so
and he gave me a Best Actor award at his inaugural film festival 2 years ago.
hell yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was kind of cool. See, yeah, the area is rife with art and creativity, and I love that Kevin's here. I love that Kevin's here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Well, Russ, I really appreciate you coming on. How can people,
Yeah.
you know, see what you got going on? How can they watch Chaser?
Yeah, so Chaser, funny enough, and this is like the first podcast that I'm announcing this, and this is why I said this. They can also watch it for free on Tubi now.
Awesome.
It has now officially dropped on Tubi for free, so you don't have to worry about putting out. A lot of people were a little worried about like, hey, 99 cents or $1.99 an
Right.
episode. So free on Tubi to watch. So watch Chaser there, and you can find me on actor Russ Russo, TikTok, IG. That's where
Awesome.
I'll be.
Hell yeah, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Drew, man. Good talking to you.